Hi, Muchismo Eugene, and welcome to another video from Exit Strategy. Please like, subscribe, share the video if you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, pass it on if you believe someone else will benefit from it. I would appreciate that. Guys, I want to talk to you about the enticement by spiritual narcissists when they lure you into the cultic fold of church. Now, this is not about church as Christ intended it to be. And that disclosure has to be put out there before and not after I say what I need to say. But this is directed towards believers who have awakened, who are empaths, and even non-believers. You are encouraged to just listen with an open ear and an open heart as well. Because coming from a believer, you're not going to get this from any body that is trying to convince you otherwise. You're not going to get the raw truth. And this is for many reasons. A lot of these reasons are there are some believers out there probably just as authentic in their faith as I am myself. But what happens is they have been deceived. And so what they go on to do is to debunk or discredit believers such as me, whose God has afforded eyes wide open to see something that, like I say, a lot of authentic believers have been blinded. That's the best way to say it. And I believe these people existed when Christ walked the earth. The reason why I believe that is because when Christ was crucified, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but it's a passage in the Bible where it say they turned and they walked with him no more. And I don't know if that was after the crucifixion. Obviously, it was probably before and even after, but point still remains. Even those devout ones who walked with Christ walked with him no more. And I think that's there for me as well as the audience here. If we walk diligently with God for most of our life, and we give one day to disowning God, disowning our faith, and turning and walking with him no more, that opens a door for more and more delusion, more and more manipulation, more and more cunningness from the enemy. So getting to my point of this video is I'm going to explain to you how, just a little story time of how so said spiritual narcissists, and a lot of these are authentic Christians blended into this dynamic as well. But we're going to focus more on the spiritual narcissist. Spiritual narcissist, this is how it looks. And a lot of you guys can attest to this, how you either got into church or how you became a member of the church you're a member of at present or past. It was because someone gave you either a track, like they did me, the narcissist I married. They handed me a track that talked about an upcoming an event or concert, if you will. That's all they are, concerts and stage plays. But anyhow, they were doing something, a function at the church, and it was just the annual whatever they have in churches. So I took it and I looked at them and I say, I'm not promising you I'm coming to your church. And you know, we say my church, and I said your church. And because we claim and we believe those churches we attend are our church. And this is by conditioning as well. It's not come to the church I go to or the church I attend. And so when you feel like you own something, you approach it differently. So I wanted to throw that in there. And so I said that unapologetically, not being rude. I looked up and I just calmly said, I'm not promising you I'm coming to your church, but thank you. And I gave, I gave the pamphlet some attention maybe a few days or a week after that, and it was laying around the house, and I saw it, and I said, kids, why don't we just go over here? It doesn't seem like it's far from the house. And it's probably the same distance as the ex-narcissist I married. And it's walking distance. You can walk there in 5 minutes from my house. And so, and I haven't seen the narcissist, but probably 3 or 4 times in the 6 years that they've been out of my house. So that is good to know too, because some of you guys live farther than, way farther than that, apart from the narcissist, and you probably see them more than you want to. But that's just a blessing I wanted to emphasize too. It's giving me the ability and the time to really form a clear space in order to heal and elevate my own consciousness and my own vibration. So I gave it some thought. I talked to the kids. Before you know it, we were in the church. We were there. We walked in and I saw them. I went over and I shook her hand and saw the kid. He reached out and shook my hand. He's highly functioning autism. So he just mimicked what she did, and he shook my hand, and we sat beside him, me and my children, and her son. So it was all 5 of us sitting there. And I threw my hand up to the church just to, was a thing that I did because, acknowledging, hi. And obviously they knew I was a visitor. And so I guess they put 2 and 2 together that this person had invited me. And so unbeknownst to me, I was being recruited in not just the church attendance. I was being recruited for this spiritual narcissist and I was being recruited for them to get this attention, adulation, and admiration. I was being recruited for their kicks. It wasn't about them inviting me to the church as a human being with genuine concerns for a soul, or genuine concerns for someone to partake in what they believed was a great gathering place to worship God. And again, you have some well-meaning believers that will invite you likewise to a church that have the right intentions. But what they don't know is they've been recruited to do the recruiting, to unction you into the cult, to unction you into the shish show, where the demons lie in wait and they feed off of you. It reminds me of Wrong Turn. I really want to tell you that the movie series Wrong Turn, I wouldn't advise you guys to watch it, but you all have watched it. Think about it now, looking back. You had these inbreds that went out and they would sabotage the road and, turn the sign a certain way to lead the unknowing victims down the road of no return. That's why it was called Wrong Turn. And so the same narrative, leads you the wrong way in order to destroy you, unalive you. Then they go on to feast off of these people, literally, figuratively and physically. They would feast off of these people after they unalived them. And you have many cases where narcissists, and they've made movies about them. And just most recent here in the news, you had this guy that they found over 100 corpses in his house, and I think he had 20 or 30 more that were not at his residence in a storage unit or a garage somewhere off of the property. He was basically exhuming people's graves and taking the bodies. And he had, you got to think 100 plus bodies, 120, 130 bodies. How long had this guy been doing this, And graveyards are a resting place, one would think. And it goes to show us how these things can go under the radar. And I wanted to just say that in comparisons to that movie, that there are things happening in our society that people are passing off as psychotic behavior. And the person had mental health issues. They had this, there was schizophrenia, this and that and the other. And the psychopathy of it, and if you want to just, you want to medical term it, that's fine. But beyond that, there's a deeper disturbance that's going on that you and I know all too well is narcissistic personality disorder, which trumps every other mental health disease or mental health disorder that we can think of. You know, he can be a serial killer, but if he's a narcissist, he is hell bent on destroying people, period, because he cannot not do it. He cannot not destroy. That is just what they live and breathe. Whether they physically destroy you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually in this case. And so when these people draw you into the church, you get there and you get laxed and you become a part of something. Now you're the unassuming person. You're going about business as you think you should. And I don't want to use business too loosely, going on with your business as to worshiping God. You have all the right intentions with the wrong people, is what I like to say. And this is what we did when we met the narcissist. We had all the right intentions with the wrong people. And so what am I saying? I'm saying going forward, I don't know the last time I was invited. Well, I do, maybe a week or two ago. Ironically, I pushed some snow for a lady, and ironically, it ended up being the widow of someone that was had a position in the mission, which is where I came from, to this residence. And I think I tell the story about that, how I ran away from a very destructive relationship. And this was before I even knew about narcissistic personality. The girl just wanted to argue all the time. She would pull arguments out of the air, much like this borderline personality disorder girl I talk about in the video. So all of these blocks have been put together over time and finally come into the narcissistic personality disorder phase of in my life of discovering. And I had known all of these other absurdities with this, you know, the behaviors and stuff. So it was time. God brought me full circle. And as a believer, it is nothing like an empath who is a believer in God. That is a super empath. Because what you have done, God has allowed you to adopt this tangible insight along with your spiritual endowments. And you are a different type of Christian. You're different. You're different to the point where you can see, sense, feel, and actually be in the thick of it at the same time. Unbeknownst to the targets that have you as targets. Ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. They know that is something different. They know that they can't really get close to you, but they want to feast on you. An awakened, in tune empath is something nobody wants to reckon with. That's not braggadocious. That is what I've seen. That is what I've experienced. In the space that you have awakened now as a believer, if you have detached from the followings, the groupings of church, and you've isolated, because your isolation has afforded you insulation. Not so much being closed in from any and everybody, but it has insulated you from those things that mean you're no damn good. And it's caused you to be able to see things in a way unlike you've ever seen it before. And you're not trying to prove it to anybody. You're not trying to impress it upon anyone. You're just going to speak. You're just going to speak. Even though you may not be good at speaking, you are just going to speak. And when you awaken and start elevating and forming this new found understanding of who you are, which is that individuation process, tackling that shadow, even though it feels damn good, it's going to be very rocky, but your peace is going to allow your space to be able to create and think and flow. You're not going to be concerned about doing a hell of a lot of things. in a short amount of time. You'll go through those phases where you feel like you got to play catch up and make up for lost time, but that will soon or sometimes quickly dissolve and dissipate, and you won't have those concerns as much as you did before, because this is all new to you. You'll come to a point in a place and a space of peace. Not that you won't have any chaos or concerns or it's not that you will be free of chaos altogether outside of you. And it's not to say you're not going to have some conflicting moments in your life, but overall, the majority of the time, your peace is going to be something that surpasses all understanding. This is the peace that Christ was talking about when he sent his spirit to comfort you. He said, if I don't go, the comforter can't come to be with you. Because I believe as long as he yet was there in front of people, they could believe in him. This is why I believe when he was no longer visible to them, they followed him no more. See, the following is not physically following someone who you can see. See, the Holy Spirit is something that you follow as it leads you. See, churches overcomplicate and undersimplify what only the few that have really lived and chewed on these things know and will talk about. I'm not saying I have the blueprint on it, but what I'm saying is what I'm saying. You go and you sit with this, you go and you sit with that. You sit with this and you sit with that. And you form whatever brings you that peace. See, it's not that double bind, whereas you're presented with two options, but the options either or you choose have been prescribed to you. So whatever choice you choose is not your choice. I'm saying sit with this and sit with that, and you form whatever brings you that peace of that surpasses all understanding. See, if a church truly gave, and not gave people the perception or the illusion that they're giving them a choice and free will, by their free will, these would be the churches that Christ died for. But unfortunately, a lot of these churches, they're just luring people into slaughter. And Christ knew this when he spoke in the Bible. Like sheep led into slaughter. And if they don't, you have to understand before I close, when they lure you into these churches, they dim your light. They want you in the church so they can have guidance to see where they're going. But where they're going, they don't really want to go in the way that you are trying to go. They're just trying to get there to wherever they're trying to get. It's not where you're trying to get. They just want to get a little further down the road. It's like some of those movies when this heist, a bank heist. You've seen the narratives in the skits where or the plots where they robbed the bank, and through the movies, I haven't seen one in a while, but you'll understand what I mean. And all throughout the movie, there's the back and forth. You can see the weak link. The guy is going to probably, he's fretting and he's getting afraid because the FBI or wherever are just closing in all the time, and they're on the run all the time. And what happens is, one by one, they're executed off. And then you'll have the goon or one of the ones saying, you guys want to go where he went? You want to go? Who's next? Meaning he just popped him, unalived him. And so it's built on fear. Once that church gets you in there, they lure you in. They prey upon your fears. And they noticed your fears and your insecurities, much like a narcissist. They don't pray, pray, and intercede on your behalf of your weaknesses. They prey upon your weaknesses, prey. You're in there praying to God, and they're in there preying on you. And understand the churches as they be. They're not the churches that God is talking about. And when you get in there, your intuition is telling you shouldn't be there. But what do? You're trying to talk and argue with your intuition. Oh, I want to leave. It ain't that bad of a church. I'm going to stay here. Hey, how you doing, sister? Hey, bro. And they can look at you and tell that you're coming to your wits. And they dose you up with another obligation to throw your attention off of that thought. Because you're never getting the time and the space to sit with yourself in a way that you need to. You never get the isolation. Because once you've been recruited into that, what do you call it? Those camps, concentration camp. Once you've been recruited into that concentration camp, you can't concentrate. Your concentration is on them and all the stuff they've loaded you up to do by purpose, on purpose. Because as long as you're busy doing somebody else's business, you ain't got time to tend to your business. And they'll tell you, oh, just take care of God's business and he'll take care of your business. Never neglect yourself at the expense of someone else who doesn't value you. That being said, bless.